for being here. Please feel free to leave all of your comments and questions in the chat as we go. We'll be sure to get to those as we are having our discussion. One announcement before we get right into things. April 25th is right around the corner. As you might know, it's Parental Alienation Awareness Day. It's a big time to spread awareness and to gather the community together. So we're going to our we're going to our state capitol to not only spread flyers around promoting awareness with QR links to the videos, but we're also going to have posters with some signage on them, and we're going to be having a hopefully nationwide vigil in memory and to reflect on all of the children and loving parents who are enduring this horrific type of abuse. Do you have anything you want to add about that, Aubrey?
No, just in honor of those who we're fighting for. Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's more about that on Facebook. We have a whole Facebook invite. If you look up the Anti-Alienation Project on Facebook, you should find that. But let's just get right into today's video because, in my opinion, it's a very, very important one. So I'll start with what I put in the video description. So imagine if you had a chance to meet with your state senator and discuss family law reform and parental alienation. Well, after 1 year of trying to meet with our Utah senator, Senator McKell, mom Aubrey Fager finally had her chance to advocate for herself, her son, and the millions of others who are experiencing this heartbreaking form of child psychological abuse known as parental alienation. So Aubrey's here with me today, and Aubrey wanted to talk with Senator McKell about Kayden's law, how harmful it is for alienated children and their loving parents. She also wanted to talk about the need for all children to be protected. And Aubrey, I know that you recorded your conversation with Senator McKell, and in today's video, Aubrey and I are going to react and kind of have a conversation about this recording with her meeting with Senator McKell. And it is wild, to say the least. I have heard the recording. It is lit a new fire beneath me to carry on in this and make 2025 the year that people know what this is and how to recognize it, and that we start coming up with real solutions. Is there anything you want to add, Audrey, before we get into the recording?
Yeah, there's just two things I want to kind of just quickly clarify. Number one would be I did not expect to get the answers that I got that day. So
Or
I
one,
had, I had no
I
plans of
believe.
sharing a recording, or I didn't know what I was going to find, but I just feel that getting this information out there as soon as possible is the right thing to do. The second thing I want to cover at the beginning of this live is we are live. And I want to let the parents know watching that I am aware I have a personal gag order. I'm not allowed to talk about my personal case or my personal case details. So I will do my best to fast forward or skip anything that's about my personal case or my case details. I still don't think I said anything in that interview that was inappropriate about my case, but I just want to be super careful. For those that may feel like they're suffering with a gag order, I just want to let those parents know I've had a gag order for years now, and all it has done is protect me and more importantly, protect my son. And so I want us to maybe start viewing gag orders in that manner, that we do not need to talk about our children or our personal case details in order to get involved in family court reform and make a difference and talk about social and political issues.
2 thumbs up to that. Yes, I love that point. So let's just get right into the recording, Aubrey. I think it
Okay.
speaks for itself in a lot of ways. So Utah is a one-party consent state, so you only need the consent of one person who's in the conversation in order to record a conversation. Again, please leave any questions or comments you have as we're going through this recording.
Right. And that will be good. You guys, I'm going to try and do my best to not be like constantly stopping or pausing the recording. Like Madi has said to me, it really does speak for itself. There are some one-liners or two-liners in there that I'm sure me or Madi might want to clarify, but also put them in the chat down below. Like if you catch those things and you can catch those things, put them down in the chat answer questions or ask questions, answer questions. Let's all just be helping each other out down below. But I will go ahead from here and play that recording. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
Your binder.
Okay.
I gave him
I'm
a
just going
binder.
to kind of start with a statement that I wrote.
Okay.
And it is kind of long
Okay.
because it's a summary of everything I've been studying the last 15 months.
Okay.
This is information that I don't hold against anyone. I don't think that anyone has the time or the energy to be going through all of this information.
Right.
And so anyways, when Ohm's Law came to Utah, it kind of just confused me to all get out.
Okay.
To the point I just started researching like crazy.
Right.
So it's kind of what I'm going to go over.
Okay.
Senator McKell, I'm truly honored that you agreed to meet with me. I feel like it's literally a meeting from God. I don't know if there's...
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
I don't know, but I know it's persistent, but I don't care what the reason is. I'm just super, super grateful.
Right.
So I have a lot of information to cover in a short amount of time, so I thought I would start with a letter statement of sorts.
Okay.
And I want to start by saying I have been researching this topic almost daily since HB 272 came to Utah. And as I researched this topic, I uncovered a lot of disappointing information. And I would have never imagined what I would uncover, and hope to not disappoint you or anyone with this information in the way that it disappointed me. HB 272 came to Utah in February 2024. Right. This was my testimony at the Senate meeting, very short. I said, "Hi, my name is Aubrey Fager. I would like the Senate to please read the email that I sent, as I don't have time to go through it, but it is very brief and well written. I want to stand in support of everyone that this bill affects. I'm heartbroken for the children who've experienced abuse at the hands of any abuser. I want to speak for the falsely accused parents. This bill does not protect the falsely accused parents, whether they get their abuse dismissed from DCFS or not." And then within my email, there are other concerns as well. I want the children protected, but I want to make sure that any allegation that comes through the court is vetted through the court, because it's currently not.
Right.
I would have quickly added, but didn't have time to say, DCFS can support a finding, but still not see any reason to remove the child from their current home. But the court can approve to remove a child simply on a supported DCFS finding. That's what happened to me. So DCF said, this is not enough abuse to remove your child, but whatever the courts or your ex does is, beyond our control. Furthermore, anyone can say anything they want to both law enforcement and DCFS for a report to be taken. I understand there's maybe some requirements in there for law enforcement and DCFS, but it's pretty easy to make a report on anything you'd like to report.
Yeah, for sure.
And anyone can do it, as many times as they want. Just adding in there, which is not written on my statement, but I just want to add, my case ended up going to a multidisciplinary team meeting. The journalism work I've done on Kayden's law, now passed in Utah, is HB 272 Ohm's Law. And I don't mean any disrespect with this next sentence, but I'll refrain from calling HB 272 by Ohm's Law, as I learned naming bills after children is exploitive of the children. I will also refrain from talking about my own case or case details for the same reason, but happy to answer any questions. So if I could give my statement all over again, this is what I would say. And I think it's pretty alarming and jarring because there's just no other way to say it.
Okay.
But you'll and I'm shaking, I'm nervous to present this information. I know. And by the way, I voted for you. I think that even though it may seem like I'm in opposition of your bill, I don't think I can hold this much research against anyone,
Right.
So anyway, you'll understand why I was not able to give this testimony publicly. It wouldn't have been appropriate. I want to do a little disclaimer that what I'm about to say, what I'm about to share with you might sound harsh, blunt, aggressive, but I truly don't mean it that way. There are some things I am about to say that some people take offense and get defensive, and there's no other way for me to say these things. HB 272 is a version of Kayden's law. Kayden's law is being passed under VAW law, state by state in the USA, and is now being adopted globally. That's my main concern, is how it's going globally. Kayden's law has been passed in Arizona, Colorado, Utah, where Ohm and Leo were exploited by Tina Swinton, Pennsylvania, where Kayden and her mother Kathy were exploited by Tina, in California, where Tina Swithin is from. Kayden's law has passed in 5 states and is on its way to pass in each state in the United States of America and beyond. My prayer is that I can educate enough people on all sides of this bill to get it amended or rescinded, which no one's gonna like the word rescinded, but I'll explain, and I can't help but throw that word out there. This may sound dramatic, but let me explain. The main issue with Kayden's law is it recognizes any credible abuse allegation as abuse with no proof. And people will argue that, but that is the case. Children are taken from a home with no court investigations or route to reunification. So as a falsely accused parent, I went through 2.5 years of supervised visits.
Right.
I paid $500 a week to see my son. But that's a successful businesswoman, my family is pretty successful. Yeah, exactly. And you can't, and I hate when people start screaming corruption and people just want money and blah, 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 like everyone's doing the best they can.
Yeah, that I know it may happen somewhere in the world.
Right.
It definitely is not.
Well,
I haven't seen it in 13 years on Capitol Hill.
Thank you. And what I say is like,
Is he saying he hasn't seen false allegations in 13 years there?
He's saying he hasn't seen flat out corruption in 13 years.
Okay.
And I'm saying about corruption, yes, it might happen. We can recognize that it does happen, but is it corruption or is it an unfavorable outcome?
Gotcha.
People can scream corruption, but is it just they didn't like the outcome? You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing is like, so let's see here. So they're taken, the kids are taken upon HB 272 without any court investigations. So there are many other concerns with this bill that enforce false allegations to continue and place the child with a false reporter. Some people literally, they don't want to recognize false allegations that lead to parental alienation. The word has been so politicized. There's so many terms you could use instead of parental alienation.
I'm actually glad it's been politicized because part of it is just straight up junk science.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to go over today.
That's the problem. I mean, I got like Ron Wilkinson who hires the exact same experts on every single case.
Well, when you don't have a lot of experts in your state, then we're all having to use the same experts. But taking away the experts takes away your supervision, your therapy, your stuff like that. So
the stakes are high when it comes to family law.
Yeah, very high.
And I don't practice family law, thankfully.
Okay.
But I don't practice.
He says, I don't practice family law. Moving on.
Did you notice how right when you said the term parental alienation, he said, I'm glad it's being politicized, and I believe it's junk science, he says. So
Yes.
so they've obviously come to him first, and they've colored his view of what this is. So you didn't really stand a chance, Aubrey, in my opinion.
So like I said, the Mothers' Rights Movement, Danielle Pollock and Tina Swithin are triangulating the politicians, getting to them first, making them believe that parental alienation is not real. So therefore, they will also denounce false allegations. But yet in this meeting, he acknowledges that some children are taken on false allegations, but this bill does not acknowledge false allegations whatsoever. And of course, when he said junk science, that's probably the most triggering part of the entire interview, because he just told me that he believes that the court professional science is the junk science, not the Mothers' Rights Movement science and their actual junk science and their actual pseudoscience that they call the degrees and the court professional science, pseudoscience, and junk science. So he's on board with the Mothers' Rights Movement, calling court professional science and research junk science.
Is this projection? Could this be projection? Yeah.
Absolute projection, and it's regurgitated projection now, right? So.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Family law.
Interesting.
I do insurance work.
So the main thing I want to talk about is the word you use, junk science. That's the main things we're going to get into today. So there are many other concerns with this bill that enforce false allegations to continue and place the child with a false reporter.
I think we have, I'll say for the junk science, and we have we have some folks who like magically have the same findings in every case, depending on who hires them. And that's always been.
But it always comes down to the judge and the commissioner.
Yeah.
Regardless,
The
and it
judges
always
have to rely on
therapists, custody
they
evaluators,
have to rely on the Michelle Jones
supervisors.
who
And if they don't
reach
have
the
that,
same findings and everything.
well, let me finish reading
Yep.
this statement, and then I'm gonna get into the pseudoscience that everyone's arguing about, because it's time that we all really educate ourselves on the research. So among other concerns I'll get to shortly, Tina Swithin is the gaslighting force behind Kayden's law. She preys upon women who lose a child due to custody issues and exploits their story to pass her bill. Tina Swithin owns an LLC that she calls an organization. Her organization is worth $5 million. Her courses is what make up that $5 million. Her courses teach that there's no such thing as false allegations or parental alienation in any case.
Right.
Tina Swithin teaches and charges for family court courses with 0 credentials. So we want to, I don't know Michelle Jones, but we want to put a negative connotation on a Michelle Jones of the world who has degrees, but Tina Swithin has 0 credentials. She is most known for rejecting the court science and professionals that recognize false allegations. She says parental alienation is not real and is only and just an abuser's cry 100% of the time, versus case-by-case analysis. And case-by-case analysis and getting a ruling you don't like is not corruption. There's a great deal of case law and judges citing alienation. So now that's just all ignored, hundreds and thousands of cases citing alienation. She has come up with her own science and expensive courses to replace herself as the court professional.
Right.
She calls herself and her 100 to 200 divorce coaches expert witnesses of the court with 0 credentials other than her high conflict divorce coaching certification. Kayden's law denounces the court professionals' training and degrees, yet her and her divorce coaches are testifying in courtrooms as expert witnesses with 0 credentials, all because we hate the professionals. Leah Moses, the mother of Ohm, is being hired here in Utah on court cases to provide expert witness testimony on cases she knows nothing about without any credentials. And I don't know who's friends with who or what, I don't care. I do my best to not look into people's cases in detail because it's none of my business, but I hope that
I actually think it's helpful to look at the cases.
Probably, but I don't want to.
In my world, so we hire experts all the time, and I think it's really helpful to see who's hired and who and why. And there are certain people who just get hired on every case to reach a conclusion that oftentimes
to muddy the waters.
Oftentimes the conclusion is just based on who's making payment. That's where
true.
That's the reality. And so I look at Ohm's law as just a rebalance. Let's just make sure that we rebalance the abuses and allegations of abuse. And it's not cases where there's a claim of abuse. There's criminal charges. So
no, that's not true,
like Leah Moses' case, criminal charges. Shamie Hunter's case, there were criminal charges. I know the girl down in Salem, there were criminal charges. And those are, when you look at cases that involve abuse with criminal charges, what the attorneys have done, what the Ron Wilkinsons of the world, they've got these they're trying to put lipstick on a pig because they've got a client who had felony charges, misdemeanor convictions, and it's like, well, how do I offset that? And he came in with this really brilliant tool, right? And it's not just this nationally. I mean, Dr. Corwin up at the U, who I spent a lot of time talking to now multiple times.
Yeah, I know his stance.
I mean, he's
not in favor of Kayden's law.
He's very much in favor of it.
Then I'll have to do some research on that.
I met with him.
But my point is this: you have their research paper, and you have our research paper. So let's get into this. So it seems like the politicians and the media are listening to disgruntled mothers over a team of court-trained professionals on any given case. That's what's happening. Let me finish. Tina and her divorce coaches are being considered expert witnesses, while parents are being denied real trained court professionals on their case. I sat in on a case. Kayden's law is legally removing safeguards for children. It's removing our supervision, it's removing our therapy. This is why I'm so freaking concerned.
Right.
Because if I would not have had supervision and therapy, I would have never seen my child again. I don't have any criminal stuff on my name. My ex doesn't have any criminal stuff on his name. I'm not gonna put it on his name.
So he's claiming you were alienating?
New statute. The 2-year-old boy, nonverbal baby boy this case keeps me up at night, who experienced direct child abuse, was left with zero professional supervision, and instead his supervision was left to untrained friend and family supervision. I'm afraid HB 272 is not doing what we intended it to do. I feel absolutely horrible for all the court parents and any and all mothers who have fallen victim to Tina's ideology and her pseudoscience.
I just want to pause right here and explain what's going on, because I know I'm bouncing from my case to another case, so I had to fast forward. I sat in on a case in the Utah courtroom as moral support for one of my friends. No court watching, mob mentality, nothing like that. I was the only one there to just be there to support her. This situation where she's trying to protect her child, the father does have prior domestic violence, prior arrests, prior this, prior that to meeting her, but then domestic violence and child abuse while being with her, 13 police reports. Okay, this is a clear-cut case. This is not just he said, she said. And this is the case I'm talking about. We stood in front of Commissioner Ito of Utah, and she said, based on HB 272, we no longer have any trained supervisors in the state of Utah. So HB 272 completely removed our supervisors, but their aim was to remove the therapists. They didn't realize by putting all of this verbiage in there about the training that these professionals need to have. Who's saying they don't already have it, McKell? Who's saying that these court-trained professionals with degrees don't already have all these trainings in all these different areas, but because you created a statute with multiple terms and language of the different trainings that they need, now they're considered untrained. When they've been in the court system for 10, 20, 30 years helping families, now overnight, they're not trained and the supervision services are denied to child abuse, domestic violence cases. That's what McKell did. And I bring it up a few more times in this audio because he's not listening to me and he just didn't believe me. So we'll make sure to get him that, case information so that he can look into that. But nowhere in this audio did I ever lie. No reason would I ever need to lie. And doesn't that say everything? If I have absolutely no reason to lie about anything I'm saying in here, and I'm telling him about the 15 months of research that I did, and he just won't listen to me. He just won't believe me. Okay, that's fine. Let me go ahead and restart the
It's very
audio.
close-minded, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, 1 second. Where did it go? 1 second. Oh my gosh. Sorry, guys. Here it is. And of course, it restarted.
I think we're probably around like the 25-minute mark.
Say that again, Maddie.
I think it's probably around like the 25-minute mark.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And he keeps interrupting you too.
And then she teaches women all this, but
What goes on in this world,
or president. Even weirder, McKell, is like Jessica Larson. Thank goodness social media law. Tina Swithin,
You're gonna hit your wife, you're gonna hit your son.
Disagree with that because of custody proceedings. There, who lives 10 minutes.
I mean, to state policymaker.
I promise,
it was way before.
Which is going to be 2 pieces of documents identifying a child with an abuse, replacing a child with a false name.
Sorry, guys.
55% tell you what's in this binder. Yeah. What I'm saying, I feel absolutely horrible interpreted HB 272 to mean that Utah has 0 state-trained professional supervisor.
And he's
not in favor of Kayden's law. I said, Father, this case keeps me up at night. I hear that because you have to, right?
No,
like we should put, but you get what I'm saying. It's involved.
I want you guys to hear what he's saying.
Let me just finish because the thing is if I don't tell you what's in this binder, what I'm saying doesn't matter, but I have to get through this first.
No, you're good, but yeah, I want to talk about 272 because it doesn't change the science, it changes the balance. So we look at
it did change the science because
we elevate past abuse above the theory of parental alienation.
We elevate.
Yeah,
and 2 to 13% of child custody cases involve child abuse. 2% being CSA. 2 to 55% include false allegations. These are vetted statistics.
Right.
So there's more false allegations than there is child abuse, but yet we're putting child abuse above false allegations. But then when
we should put in my view as a
no, I hear that. I hear that because you have to, right?
No,
like we should put, but you get what I'm saying. If you're not considering false allegations and you're placing a child with a false reporter, then now the child is ended.
What Ohm's law does, it elevates.
Ohm's law took away our supervisors and our therapy, McKell.
No.
I was in the courtroom. I'm telling you, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm concerned. If I would have been denied supervision, they're trying to take away our reunification. They're trying to paint reunification as bad. Don't reunify with abusers. Absolutely. I've not seen the court reunify a child with an abuser. I have not seen that.
Oh, I see lots of cases.
And after obviously, like, I'm realizing, like, of course I've seen child placed with abusers when you're placing a child with a false reporter that's placing a child with an abuser. But I'm trying to explain, obviously, that I haven't, like, seen someone totally abuse their child and the court say, oh, give him custody or give her custody. That's my point. Yes, I see it with false allegations, but that's the whole point. He's negating false allegations.
Lots of cases.
So, Tina Swithin's divorce coaches, the Kayden's law. Oh, wait. Have fallen victim to Tina's ideology. She calls the court professional research pseudoscience, but is only projecting her own made-up pseudoscience, which is going to be 2 pieces of documentation.
Okay.
Challenging Parental Alienation by Jean Mercer. This is Jean Mercer is on the Kayden's law team. And then this is their research paper, and their only research paper. This was also the research paper that was cited in the KSL with you and Cheney. This is the research that they cite in that KSL argument. This is the mother's rights movement pseudoscience. I promise you, I'm telling you.
I understand what Dr. Corwin would say.
Well,
because I met with him.
Okay, well, we'll get to I really, like, my thing is like, you're always going to have professionals for or against something. What I'm trying to do today is literally just inform you. I don't care if I change your mind. I don't care if you believe me. I don't care if you're on my, I don't care. I'm just here to present.
I'm not taking anybody's side. I mean,
and I only have 10.
That's the problem, McKell. You are taking sides. You have yourself in your law office, then you have a law partner named Shani Hunter who practices family law. You even said in this recording that you believe in looking into the case details on these cases, okay? So that means you are passing Kayden's law in Utah based off having a law partner that you believe would never lie. And you are taking sides on cases, reading the case documents and choosing sides. And if you're reading a court document listing abuse, listing out false allegations, and you just believe it because it's in a court document, and you don't look into the science and the research, then I guess you would have the stance you have, sir. And this is Senator McKell, Michael K. McKell in Utah.
I am just a policymaker.
So there are 22 to 24 million parents being alienated. There's 46 million children being alienated from one or both of their parents, and we lose a parent or child every 4 to 6 seconds due to custody issues. Tina Swithin, Tina Divorce Coaches, and the Kayden's Law Team, protective parents and mothers, and DV advocates truly believe that mothers should have custody, even at the expense of the child's relationship with the father. Like, there are mothers out there who would lie to get custody. I'm not saying who would or wouldn't do that. And
my mom.
Yep.
Also, I want to say I think a big problem with Kayden's law is it doesn't protect all children. It doesn't protect children who are going through specifically psychological abuse, which we know parental alienation is. And I want to highlight someone's comment, Wolfram. He says, "Unbelievable lack of empathy." That struck me too. His lack of empathy for not only you but other people in this situation. Incredible. And I think that this might be hard for people to listen to, and especially parents to hear, but it's important that we know that this is how our lawmakers and our senators are regarding the issue, are talking about the issue. This is what they think and believe. And I don't know if he has an ulterior motive or not. I get the sense that he does, in my opinion. But this is how it's being handled right now. And we need to expose that so we can make changes, so people are more fired up to make changes.
Yes. And the thing is that the states that this has already passed, those senators and those politicians who voted yes on it, this is how they see it. This is why they voted yes. And going forward in every state, if your state is targeted like Utah or one of the states that have already passed it, they are coming to teach them that parental alienation and false allegations are only the abuser's cry and should not be considered by law. It doesn't matter. We did add psychological abuse to our language. We did add psychological maltreatment. We did add coercive control. Does that change that the bill does not recognize false allegations at all? No.
Thank you for
men
asking.
who will do the same thing, right?
For sure.
So
Totally agree.
So if we can acknowledge that, then we know false allegations are out there,
For sure.
and we know children are placed with the false aggressor or abuse,
Totally agree.
So children should not be removed over false allegations or exaggerated or fabricated abuse. If there is abuse between the partners but not involving the child, this should not play a part in custody proceedings.
I agree on that.
That's 100%. I went to a lawyer, 5 lawyers, 6 lawyers. I've had so many lawyers. And I said, if he abused me, but he never abused my son. Now, I'm not talking about domestic violence in the presence of a child, right? Because that's still abuse.
No, but if I'm a policymaker and I know dad is beating mom, I think I want a court to be able to consider that.
Okay, I can respect that. I disagree with that because I feel like
beating you, I think the court should be able to weigh that.
And I can respect that. Me personally, for my son's sake, I want him to have a relationship with his dad. Me taking away his relationship with his dad just because he hit me is very detrimental to my son.
Which I'm not saying anyone hit me. I'm literally trying to use McKell's example in this situation.
Can I say
My
something
son
about this?
never
Yeah.
used.
I think the problem with this idea that if the partner was violent towards me, then my children should have no relationship with that partner. I think the problem is because it comes down to the perception of the parent of whether or not they were harmed and how severely they were harmed. And a lot of these alienators are not living in reality, they're delusional. And so they either exaggerate or fabricate things in their brains where they actually believe they were harmed and they really weren't. And people's idea of what abuse is really differs based on the individual. That's why you need a third party to evaluate all of this stuff.
Right. Like some people literally, some mothers or some fathers literally believe in alienating the child from the other parent due to parenting mistakes.
Hmm.
So, okay, let's see what he says. But obviously, this is probably the most important part of the recording for me because I feel like this is the cornerstone of the argument. And that's what everyone's arguing about from the get-go. So at what point, at what level of abuse do you take a child's parent?
To know about it.
The stats on that, when you see it.
Yeah,
if you want to hit your wife.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go off
your wife, you're going to hit your son at some point.
If you want to go after the domestic violence stats and get behind domestic violence advocates and groups, then that's fine. But
domestic violence law is pretty good right now.
I mean, Ohm's law is the domestic violence law right now, so I guess you would maybe think it's good right now. Let's see here.
What I'm saying is that this is the domestic violence bill, and he's just saying, like, he thinks this fixes it, right? And that any abuse between two partners, that should play a part in custody. And he's not a family court lawyer.
Kayden's Law Team, protective parents and mothers, and DV advocates truly believe that mothers should, okay, I already read that. Tina Swithin teaches, and it's like, okay, so then if that's not the case, and then he's abusing me, then right, like there has to be a there's no clear-cut law on that. So women are going to lawyers and saying, I've been abused, and they're saying, well, that has nothing to do with your child, so then people are being left unprotected left and right because nothing is clear. Let's see here. Tina Swithin teaches practices such as exploiting children on social media. Thank goodness social media laws protecting children are now being passed. Exploiting children on the news and media, asking minors to contact her, organizing protests against the court and court professionals, doxing court professionals, organizing court-watching moms, assisting children in running away, assisting children in barricading themselves in their rooms, and assisting in creating human chains around their homes. And I'm sure you know right now I'm referencing the Jessica Larson, Stella Jade case.
I was with her dad.
Yeah, and I have this screenshot right here on page 78 and 79 where it talks about how one mom's battle is the person who orchestrated the barricading in their rooms, human chains around their homes, protests and everything. Very weird. Well, even weirder, even weirder, McKell is like, here I am, uneducated, protesting for Jessica Larson, thinking, I believe her, why wouldn't she believe me? I was very mistaken at the Capitol when I met Jessica, and I was very much cast out from all of the women in Utah. So I'm sure, any of the cases involved in Utah, they probably hate me no matter what, because.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, we'll see.
I don't know what goes on in this world.
I've really just been.
Oh, but he gets involved in the cases, doesn't he?
Yeah, like maybe he should. Yeah.
No, he says at the beginning, I get very involved in the cases, and then he's like, oh no, I'm sure they don't hate you. No, we're all aware of what's happening. You can pretend whatever. That's fine. Sorry.
So deep in studying Kayden's law, but anyways, verse following court orders. Like she never teaches them follow your court orders, right? Mothers who support this law might support it because it protects their child, but not all children. Tina stood in one mom's battle, and she was in contact with Jessica Larson. I want to say she was in contact with Leah Moses, and I also want to say she was in contact with Shani Hunter, but that is a full assumption.
And Shani Hunter is his law partner. And, the thing I want to point out here, because obviously you can't see the audio, is that I had a full notebook of research and, it was basically sheet protectors with documents inside each one. And, I'm talking about multiple documents as I'm talking to him and whatnot. The only document he cared to pull out of the screen protector was the emails that went back and forth between me and Tina Swithin, One Mom's Battle, about Ohm's Law, Kayden's Law, and my concerns about it. And you'll hear him say, did she respond or whatever? But that's the only document that you look at while I'm there, first of all. Second of all, you say you don't know Tina Swithin. And third of all, how would you not know Tina Swithin if you research the history of this bill? So you're telling me you passed this bill without even looking into the history and everything behind it. You don't know who Tina Swithin is. That's a problem, McKell. That's a big problem.
It's either that or he's lying to you, and he knows all about Tina Swithin, and he knows that she's a social media influencer who basically has gotten this law passed. Aubrey, why do you think that he was only interested in reading about these emails out of everything you gave him?
I truly think it's because he knows the driving force that Tina is behind Kayden's Law. He told me and you'll hear him say he met with Danielle Pollock, but that he didn't know who Tina Swithin was. And I just don't believe that. I believe that Tina Swithin is in cahoots with the cases going on in Utah, the women who support it. And I don't think it's worth a subpoena or a deposition to find out who's talking to who. It's just about figuring out at this point, who is supporting and funding Tina Swithin One Mom's Battle on a legal standpoint. And that's, you know, some people have mentioned that maybe it's the Bar Association that helps her. And so I'm hoping that I can get to the bottom of who is helping Tina, because I don't, you know, anyway, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
WITHIN. And if there's anyone profiting, it's her. It's not the professionals. It's not, you know what I'm saying? Like, if there's anyone who's, anyway. Okay, so I'm almost, I think I have just like one more page. So here we go.
I don't think I've ever seen this lady, but
She infiltrates our states. That's what
he shows me a picture of her, like, is that her? And I'm like, yeah, she infiltrates our states.
she does. And then she teaches women all this gaslighting information, and then they regurgitate it, and then politicians are confused on all the different sides of custody matters.
I would say that. I mean, this bill we worked on the family law section of the bar and the courts.
You can't fix it, McKell. You can't.
I don't think it needs to be fixed.
I understand that.
I actually like what we did in the bill.
Yeah, I just want to get through this. We can recognize some children are kept from a parent due to abuse. This is not, we can recognize some children are kept from a parent due to child abuse. This is child safety, not alienation, right? So some parents alienate, but they're not alienating because they're just trying to keep the child safe with them, right?
Yeah.
We can also recognize some children are kept from fit, loving parents due to false allegations, which places the child with the false reporter. This is alienation. The mother's rights movement claims when mothers claim abuse and the fathers claim alienation, here we go, the weaponizing of parental alienation. The mothers are twice as likely to lose custody. This statistic comes from Kayden's law team, Joan Miner's research, the 2020 research paper, their only research paper. This research has since been debunked in 3 different research papers from court-trained professionals with degrees who work with the court system. Both domestic violence and parental alienation have become a daily legal and abuse strategy. Court professionals, so people want to say parental alienation is being weaponized, so is domestic violence and false allegations. So
yeah, and that's always been the case.
Yeah, but this bill does not recognize false allegations whatsoever, McKell, and any credible allegation of
take the court's discretion away.
It doesn't take the court's discretion away. That is always what they're going to say in the end when they have nothing else to say to me and I've covered everything and I have an answer for everything, is it doesn't take away the court's discretion. Well, when they go, and I say this, so I'm sorry to but this is a big deal. But the thing is that so you go to court for your first hearing and you're denied supervision. So the court's discretion is used at trial. That's when the judge or the court gets to have discretion and say, oh, I don't like what's going on. We're flipping custody, or the child's staying where they need to be, or whatever the case may be. Well, that you're taking away the court's discretion at the very first hearing.
The court can't consider it. All this bill does is it balances abuse, and the courts have to consider abuse, and experts have to have a credential dealing with past abuse.
Court professionals are desperately needed to determine the child's safety. And right now, our court professionals have been taken away. Furthermore, the mother's rights movement claims 28% of mothers that claim child. I just gave you an example. We
didn't take any away. We said they had to have a credential in abuse.
And who said that they didn't already have that, McKell?
If they have it, they're fine.
McKell, when you look at the statute of the training, I was in a courtroom where Judge Ito said,
right. You don't meet the qualification.
We have 0 court-trained professionals in zero court-trained supervisors in
therapists that have training in abuse.
Okay. Judge Ito said.
Commissioner Ito.
Whatever.
Yeah, she's not a judge.
That's fine. I'll change that. Commissioner Ito said.
Right.
Written based on HB 272, how the statute is written, we have 0 trained supervisors in Utah. But I want to get through this. So, so we can agree domestic violence and parental alienation are being weaponized. Courts need to look into that.
Yo. Hey, I just want to let you know you have a call. We're good. We get push them back like 5 or 10 minutes if you can. Is that right?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So when it says, they're basically telling me time's up because it's been 28 minutes. I only had 30 minutes with him. This goes on for another 12 minutes. He cannot get out in front of me. He can't help himself.
Wait,
Yeah.
Oh, you're good.
I just wanted to read some of these comments real quick
Okay,
for just
yeah.
a very short break. So Erica says he just doesn't care, and that's kind of the vibe I got by the end of the interview. Tiana says this is clearly a very well informative debate. He is clearly in denial. You give amazing point of view that he refuses to acknowledge, and yes, he fights you on every single point. Oh my goodness. And then QT113, it almost seems like you have to inflict PA on these people, judges and attorneys, in order to get them to believe it. And yes, I can understand that it's very counterintuitive, but I mean, having an open mind is an important quality to have as a human being. And he had his mind fixed up the second you said parental alienation at the start. So I wonder how many other senators have already gotten the spiel and been indoctrinated by these by one mom's battle teachers within all of the others already, and if they responded the same way to parents who've come to them.
And we can look it up, Maddie, because every single state you can look up who voted yes and who voted no. So if you're in Utah, Colorado, Arizona, Pennsylvania, or California, you better start figuring out who voted yes and who voted no. And it's time we get them out of office and replaced with those who have experienced alienation and those of us that actually want to make a difference. So let's get them in office and get McKell's got to get out of office. I'm so sorry to say that, but obviously based off this interview, we've got to get him out of office because he's not protecting Utah children. And I'm not going to let anyone stay in office who doesn't care about the Utah children's safety now and forever for all the future generations to come.
Wait, real quick, Aubrey, but before we end and listen to the rest of the recording and end the video, why, in your opinion, is it so important for parents to be aware about Kayden's law and what rights will it take away from them? How will it harm their situation with their children?
So Kayden's law acknowledges any credible abuse allegation, words, as abuse. And what it does is not only does it take away the court process of supervision, therapy, custody evaluators, but it also puts parents on supervision indefinitely.
So there's really no avenue for you to get your child back at that point.
Ever. Whether you what if you one time abused or the child saw one time abuse of their other parent or something like that, then they never get to see that parent ever again. And maybe if they do, it's indefinite supervision, but never outside of supervision. And I mean, of course, that's unconstitutional, but I want to touch on how people scream about unconstitutional or parental rights or something like that. You guys, I've had 6 lawyers tell me that constitutional rights, freedom of speech, so on and so forth. There is no family court law or statute. So anyone who's screaming, this is unconstitutional, they went against my constitutional rights, this is against my parental rights, my freedom of speech, yada, yada, yada. We can fix that maybe in the future, but if you're going in there screaming about federal law that's all on the federal side, you just look uneducated and you're ignored. And then you're wondering why they didn't give you back your freedom of speech, but it's because taking away your freedom of speech protected your child, and they care more about your child than you, and so should you.
But let me get this right. It seems like Kayden's law is harming children who are experiencing psychological abuse, including parental alienation, because it's effectively leaving them in the home with sole custody of the alienator.
Correct.
With no way to reunite with their other loving parent.
Right. It's almost become that fight of love your child more than their parent. It's like the court has stepped in, and now it's like love your child more than you hate the courts, and get smart about how you inform the courts. And now, obviously, we're learning that these politicians voting yes on this bill believe that parental alienation does not exist. They believe that.
So unfortunate.
So
So
unfortunate.
unfortunate.
And we can meet again.
Thank you. And like, I just want to help.
You're down here.
Or I just want to help. Like,
Here.
furthermore, the mothers' rights movement claims 28% of mothers that claim child sexual abuse lose custody to the father. This statistic has never been vetted. 2 to 13% of child custody cases involve abuse, 2% being CSA, and 2 to 55% involve false allegations. In high conflict or DV cases, sometimes the only way to get to the bottom of it is court expensive investigations from a custody evaluator. I'm on my 3rd custody evaluation. The court is to follow the process of possible court-ordered parenting classes, supervised visits, and or individual therapies to determine if the child abuse or DV is present or not. Like, it's not just, oh, they said there's an abuse allegation, here it is, and you just start the process and say, oh, but sorry, you don't get any court professionals. Without the court process and orders, parents with false allegations or who have made parenting mistakes do not have a way back to their children. This is indefinitely. The mothers' rights movement would like you to believe the courts are reuniting children with abusers, that reunification is bad or unsafe. They're not trying to. I understand this happens, but it's happening to a lot of us, and for many different reasons and many things being weaponized. This is simply not true. Tina teaches mothers that the courts are corrupt, ignore their due process, and are violating their freedom of speech, versus teaching mothers not to exploit their children and follow their court orders. Like, that's wild to me. Like, she literally they scream federal freedom of speech, federal law, due process. It's like, this is what she teaches them to scream. When Ohm's Law came to Utah, I sat with my lawyer for 4 hours and amended HB 272, and I'm providing a copy. It is important for me to express my opinion that amending this bill will not make it safe for all children. To my knowledge, adding or subtracting language to this bill will not make it safe for all children. I've tried it every which way. I have heard many arguments and debates over this. If this bill can be made safe for all children. The only way I have found in any argument to safely amend this bill is if any credible allegation of abuse includes clear and convincing evidence. The argument to add clear and convincing evidence seems to greatly upset some lawyers, and it does make a lawyer's job harder, and it makes it harder to remove a child if they are experiencing abuse. If a child is experiencing if a child is experiencing repetitive abuse and putting the child in danger, the court provides steps and processes to ensure the child's safety. Like, there are ways to report abuse, and like, if it's repetitive, eventually it's going to get picked up to save that child, you know? Yeah, in some cases it's not. Huh?
I mean, but does it?
I know, but we can't, like, the 2%.
There were serious, there were tons of.
But guess what was also in Leah Moses's case? Custodial interference. So maybe we start looking at custodial interference, because that's a thing that's very common.
Wouldn't you, if your ex was beating your kid?
But
wouldn't you alienate if your ex was abusing your kid? Well, McKell, if you were a family court lawyer, you would know I can't do that. You would know by law I cannot do that. I can call DCFS, I can call law enforcement, but I still have to follow my court orders until the court give me permission to withhold. I can't just withhold based off my own opinion, based off no investigations. So that's how brainwashed he is from these women to believe that they have the right to alienate in the name of child safety against the family court laws and statutes.
Let's not mention the ability to make a child believe it's their own decision to reject their parent.
Absolutely.
That's what happened with me. It was custodial interference, but it was because I had been under the mind control, believing these negative things about my dad. Of course, I wasn't going to go with him.
Absolutely.
And then my mom could even pretend to be encouraging me to go with him in front of him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish I would have responded to him. By law, I can't do that. And if you were a family court lawyer, you would know that. I don't know how well I respond to this. Here we go.
Absolutely, but then it's like you still have to go through the correct channel and process and stuff like that.
I think she did for like,
From what I heard,
like 9 years.
From what I heard, and you could make the argument that like this man was alienated for X amount of years and he lost his mind. I wound up in the psych ward when I lost my son. I'm doing much better now, but yeah, I lost my ever loving mind. My son was taken for no good reason, so that could be an argument as well. Most parents are not familiar with the court system, but there are many state resources to assist them. It seems this bill has come to become a lawyer's playground, left up to a lawyer's interpretation, left up to the parent's interpretation, but not in the best interest of the child. Of course, after all of my research, I would like to see this bill rescinded and at the very least amended. This bill might protect some children. I have not yet to see that, but it absolutely enforces child abuse for some children. In order to be a safe bill, it has to address both child abuse and false allegations. No child abuse or circumstance should be ignored or chalked up to being too rare. That's what the mothers say to me. Oh, well, your case is just so rare for a mother to be falsely accused. No, it's not. This part is just for you, Senator McKell. I think that you're the only person who can help me, truly. I'm praying you will believe me, or that my documents will be able to be enough to piece together the puzzle that I've been trying to put together for 15 months. This puzzle is still not complete. I'm still searching for solutions. Yes, I'm concerned for my own child, but I now know Kayden's law affects all the children of Utah, all Utah future generations, and all the children of the United States, and now all children globally. Like, my concern is—
You're actually using it almost like against you.
No, it goes over a list of requirements that the professionals have to have.
Yeah.
And they have,
we've been past it for sure.
Yeah, they already have those things. So to say that they don't have them is my concern. Like, how is the mother's rights movement convincing?
You disagree with that we've added?
All I disagree with is all these different terms, because like, then what you need them to get.
Give me an example, because
their training is complete, Mikkel. Why are you even asking this question? Like, I'm sorry.
No, but what training requirements do you disagree with that we put in the law?
I disagree with how it's labeled. Because
give me an example.
Coercive control even is being weaponized.
But it goes back to the training, like the training we require for experts.
I have the bill here, so I have to look it up, but yeah. Like the other document that I wanted to point out like really heavily is I emailed Tina Swithin my like concerns about it and how it like this, and this one here. Okay. Look further this way after the cases right here.
Did she respond to you?
Oh yeah. This is why I'm so freaking crazy about this, because of the way she responded. I couldn't believe it. I'm gonna just finish reading this while you look at that. I think you're the only person who can help me. The puzzle, blah, blah, blah. Still looking for solutions. Concerns for the future generations globally. So you hosted HB 272 and
it's gonna get dicey. Like assistants lining up in the hallway, dicey.
SB 117. Both of these bills just are simply dangerous for high conflict domestic violence cases. I see you as the person in charge, the person who might be able to help me. Utah politician invested and involved in the family court reform. We all know there are problems with family court, that it is not perfect and change is needed. We are all striving to protect children first and foremost, and I know you have to care about the children if you're involved in family court reform and bills. I think it's human nature for the majority to think that children are better off with their mother. That's a warm, thought, fuzzy feeling, but unfortunately, that's not always in the best interest of the child. Custody cases need to be investigated case by case with trained court professionals, but Kayden's law is denouncing court-trained professional degrees, supervisors, and like not letting people move on to the custody evaluation. And so like my only thing is like, to quickly go over what's in here, you see One Mom's Battle with $5 million. That screenshot, the very next one is a little bit about how One Mom's Battle got involved in Jessica Larson's case. Then you have my case, Liam Moses's case, Shanie's case, and then you have Jessica Larson's case. You have me fighting with the moms, like all these women thinking, like, I believe you, you're gonna believe me. Nope, they hated me.
That confused me, so I emailed Tina Swithin, said, hey, what in the actual hell is going on? She responded with, we don't believe in parental alienation or false allegations. Then I started looking into what they were calling their pseudoscience, which I came to find out it was the book by Jean Mercer and the research paper by Joan Meyer. This was written in 2020. Now, anyone who wants to ignore these next 3 documents, I'm just gonna let them, because I'm not arguing with anybody, but this is a study that was done August of 2022, strictly on this research paper. So the research paper that the Mothers' Rights Movement created, she was a lawyer. So the person who wrote the research paper was a lawyer, and the person obviously who wrote Kayden's Law is a lawyer. Her name's Danielle Pollock.
I know, I did meet Danielle Pollock.
Okay, of course. And then this right here, that's the second research paper.
Oh, you got me scheduled for call.
Yes. Yeah, sorry.
All right.
Okay.
I gotta talk to, what is it, a BYU student?
Are they kicking you out?
We have 4 more minutes left. And again, I'm not the one saying like, oh, please give me more time. He just keeps telling them to give him a little more time.
Why are you making me work today, Michaela? Okay, what am I keeping?
Okay, so you're keeping,
I'm keeping the big book.
and this is the research paper, but I need to kind of put it just right in order real quick. So
Do
the
you have
last,
like just a number? I'm gonna call him myself.
he's gonna be
I
there,
still need
yeah.
to go back and shower
And
before I
then
go
the
to
research paper here.
because I smell like corn right now. Okay.
So research paper,
Okay.
research paper, these are all to debunk the Mothers' Rights research. Maddie, do you have something you wanna say? Are you okay?
Oh no, I'm okay. I was just trying to listen.
Okay, sorry. This is a letter from the judges in the AFCC acknowledging contact problems, right? They don't call it parental alienation. Yeah, well, neither do the judges. They believe in that there is false allegations going on.
FCC is an organization of.
Here's HB
They're just
272.
an organization of a small pocket of people that want to get hired.
They're court-trained professionals, dude. Yeah, it's not about the money, it's about the children, but you can believe that.
No, I believe it. I actually do believe that.
This is being amended.
I actually do believe that there are people in the FCC.
I think that's my favorite line from the entire thing. They're court-trained professionals, dude. Like, you have to laugh. You have to laugh or you're crying at this crap.
There's things, obviously, I said that I didn't even realize I said them. But yeah, dude, I'm gonna go back just 30 more seconds and finish the last, it's like 3 minutes. FCC acknowledging contact and the judges. Right? They don't call it parental alienation. Yeah, well, neither do the judges. He said the AFCC doesn't like this bill, and I said, yeah, neither do the judges. So he's very against the AFCC court-trained professionals. That's one thing for everybody to take note, is that like he just said, yeah, the AFCC doesn't like this bill. That's his main opponent in his eyes, and he wants to get rid of AFCC therapists. So he added in all this language to get rid of them. It didn't necessarily get rid of the AFCC therapists, it got rid of our supervisors. So the very first step of investigations is what it stopped. So he was going after the AFCC professionals, and he'll say it right here. But it's just crazy to me that he thinks that AFCC, these are court-trained professionals, so they're people with degrees and people who get continued education on parent-child contact problems and issues, okay? They continue their education, they have meetings, they do this, they do that. And he thinks that the AFCC is all therapists. The AFCC is all court-trained professionals, judges, commissioners, lawyers, therapists, supervisors. It goes on and on with, like, I have a list on my website, anotherparentsbattle.com. It's on the home screen. You can scroll down and it lists all different kinds of AFCC professionals. So he doesn't realize he's trying to get rid of the entire court system and process by getting rid of AFCC therapists, saying that they're not trained when they already have degrees in training.
Aubrey, before you play the last little bit, if anybody has any questions or ideas for Aubrey moving forward, please leave it in the chat. We have this recording. Aubrey is clearly very involved in trying to advocate and reform family law. What do we do from here? So leave in the comments any questions or ideas that you may have that could be helpful to generate a conversation.
And I'm really trying to figure out like who is the next party or organization that I need to speak to. So I have, maybe following through on the Utah organizations that are on Tina Swithin's fact sheets or the Bar Association. I don't know who Tina is working with in the legal or politician. I mean, we do know the main politicians working on Kayden's law. Again, on my website, you can go see the whole Kayden's law team. But yes, those comments would be extremely helpful. And I'll go ahead and we're at 38:22 to 42:43. So just a few more minutes. Even that there is false allegations going on.
It's an organization of.
Here's HB 272.
They're just an organization of a small pocket of people that want to get hired.
They're court-trained professionals, dude. Yeah, it's not about the money, it's about the children, but you can believe that.
No, I actually do believe that.
This is the amended.
I actually do believe that there are people in the FCC that do it just for the money, and I believe that to my core.
No, then we should out them, and we should
I fully intend to.
So this is an amended bill. I said, if there's people who are bad in the AFCC, then out them. He said, I fully intend to. He fully intends to get rid of Utah's professional AFCC therapists who have doctorates, by the way. But I amended HB 272. I still don't think it's safe. Then these are my emails, and I'm sorry if I've been egregious, but I included all my emails so that if you want to refer back to any of my emails, this is SB 117 and my emails concerning why SB 117 is dangerous.
It's amazing.
It's dangerous for high conflict. I even reached out to someone who.
Why it's not dangerous?
Yeah, there was a lawyer.
Say why.
No, let me tell you why real quick. I only get limited time with you. I get that you support me.
It's a Uniform Crime Commission bill allowing a framework if parties decide to arbitrate.
To agree.
So if you don't want to, if you're in a high conflict divorce case and you tell your lawyer, I don't want to arbitrate, guess what happens? You don't have to arbitrate.
Right.
There's not a scenario on planet Earth where you would be forced to arbitrate.
But there are going to be people who get confused and think it's a good thing, so they just do it when they're involved in a high conflict divorce case.
That's your attorney's fault, right? That's
no.
not the law's fault.
No, because a lot of people can't afford an attorney, as we discussed. So to put it all on the attorney that they can't afford is really unfortunate.
You were going to use the Arbitration Act is if you affirmatively choose to.
My email's right here. I talked with a handful of people, professionals about SB 117, supervisors, therapists, lawyers, and everything else. And they explained the dangers to me. I do understand the good side of it. There was this lawyer telling me, this is why arbitration is good and why you should go to arbitration. I said, well, what about in high conflict divorce, high conflict DV cases? He said, good point. It's not good in those cases. So I get what you're saying, that your lawyer is not.
You wouldn't do it. Right, I mean, that's the whole point.
Right, but you get what I'm saying about some people not being able to hire a lawyer or afford a lawyer and getting caught up. You can't just ignore the dangers.
You go through a commissioner, you go through a judge, you can go through mediation, and now you go through arbitration. You just have
arbitration has no oversight of a judge.
None. 100% does.
None.
100% does.
That's what. Okay, then I'm gonna have to research that. That's why I thought it was dangerous.
Arbitrate.
Yeah.
All the time.
Well, yeah, because arbitration is not usually in family court. You've now introduced it into family court.
And anytime I'm in an arbitration, I can always seek help from the district court. And it's the same in the Family Arbitration Act.
Well, it doesn't seem like that anyone's going to read the actual court science and research that has been written about the mother's rights movement. And so I don't think there's anything I can do here. Does that make sense? If you're going to believe the mother's rights movement and believe them to be the expert witnesses over the court professionals, then I can't, there's nothing. Yes, it does. I've explained to you. It's taken away our supervisors. I've explained to you.
It elevates abuse.
You just want to ignore it.
Okay.
That's so sad.
Okay.
I'm in a courtroom and I'm telling the commissioners for my best friend, who this guy has priors, 13 police reports, everything else, and she says, sorry, we have no supervisors.
Don't we want those 13 priors to be elevated into consideration in the child custody evaluation? Because that's what OMS law does. It takes those 13 priors and it elevates them.
But now from the time of the first hearing all the way till trial, he has no supervised visits.
Yeah. I don't know anything about the case.
Exactly. That's what I'm. It's like
All right,
whether you
okay.
whether you know about the
Thank you
case
for
or not,
coming in.
I'm telling you about
I'll
it.
go
But it
through it.
seems you don't believe me about that case that was denied supervision. So that's unfortunate.
And then as I was walking away, because, I stopped hitting record right there, and he's got assistants lining his entire office, 3 assistants. And, I always usually have something snarky to say. That's my personality. So I should have known to keep recording. But as I was, and I guess I already made my point, but as I was walking away, I said, well, it looks like the mother's right pseudoscience is going to take over the court professional science. And he said, it might. And I said, that's unfortunate, and walked out as quietly as I possibly could because, I wanted to slam the door behind me. So yeah, that's basically how that meeting ended. And now I'll do a follow-up email so that I could include. Anyways, maybe I actually got the document. Okay, let me see if I can find it because man, it would be really important on this video. But the other day I got a paragraph explaining, it explains why that commissioner said there's no trained supervisors based off HB 272 and the training requirements. There's no trained professional supervisors in the state of Utah at this time or whatever. And so anyways, maybe I'll find that screenshot and send that to you. Obviously, that's something I'm preparing to send to McKell. I haven't sent him a final email just because I'm still trying to figure out what that email needs to include. But obviously I came very prepared with all of the research. And in the end, he just truly didn't believe me that you just took away our supervisors and you just did something you didn't intend to do. And I'm telling you that this is an unsafe bill unless you add false allegations or clear and convincing evidence. Even if you take away the verbiage of the trainers or of the training and you now recognize our supervisors, that still does not recognize false allegations in that bill whatsoever. And the thing that bothered me about him saying that child abuse should be put above false allegations, okay, that's fine if that's how you want to see it, but false allegations is child abuse, sir. So you're basically just telling me I'm not willing to recognize that part of child abuse. I prioritize child abuse, but only if I believe in it. Only if I believe in it as child abuse, not the professionals, not their research, not their science, but this literally came down to his opinion. And you guys have to remember, we live in Utah. We live in a red state, a very conservative state where it's, our even the religion here breeds take accountability, take responsibility. There's no such thing as a victim, blah, 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 blah. And so, I've had many people tell me that parental alienation is not real. People who have never been involved in family court, they just don't know what they don't know. People in the general public truly believe you have to have evidence to remove a child, and that's not the law. That's not true.
No, Aubrey, I think I speak for everyone reading these comments, and certainly I speak for myself when I say you did an amazing, amazing job. You were so well spoken and articulate, and I think you explained all of the issues really well. His response to was so disheartening and quite infuriating at points. He was not open-minded or willing to hear your side of the story whatsoever. So I just want to ask, you've had a few days to process this now. What are your takeaways from this meeting? I mean, I know that you had high hopes that he would help. You said at one point in the discussion, McKell, you're the only one who can help me, which we know now is he's not going to help us. So what are your big takeaways from this meeting and the current state of our senators?
Well, one thing I just have to say, guys, is like I'm a real slow processor. Like I'm not very quick to like process or understand the complexities or the full extent of things. Like I really have to like sit and think and meddle and research and read, and so I'm honestly I'm still in shock. I'm still in shock. Like I go to bed at night and wake up in the morning and thinking about like, okay, false allegations are not recognized by law. And obviously, where do you go with that? What do you do? How do you help? So of course, I'm trying to rack my brain around uniting everybody, and obviously the National Safe Parents Organization and One Mom's Battle, they both have state chapters and they have ways to organize. And so, I just want to encourage everybody, obviously, make sure you follow the Anti-Alienation Project on all social medias, as well as the custodial interference pages. And my page is called Another Parent's Battle. My website, parentsbattle.com, but it's a free resource. Everything I do is free. I don't even have a way for people to donate. That's not the point. I just want to start getting the truthful information out there. And we are going to have to figure out how to create state chapters. So I think as far as just processing the whole thing, I'm still just really doing that. I'm in shock. I can't think about anything else. And, I understand, we've been talking about the problems for some time now, and I am hopeful that solutions are going to start presenting themselves. I think that there's already a lot of solutions out there. It's just a matter of everybody finding each other and connecting. I'm hoping and praying that we can start, of course, not only fighting Kayden's law, but possibly helping with getting the 50-50 shared parenting passed and getting politicians educated. We were going away from, if you research the tender years doctrine, that was a doctrine that believed that mothers should have custody. And we were getting away from the tender years doctrine, but then bam, Tina Swithin came into play, and she took away all that progress for children to have both of their parents and started working the courts back in the direction of choosing one parent instead of shared parenting. And so my website is like so lengthy. It's like the tabs and everything like that. It's just so much. So I know it's close to impossible for parents to go on there and read all that information and get caught up in everything. It's so much information. So I hope to be able to put out more content and in short forms and help everybody know what's going on. But if you are a mother in support of Kayden's law, you care to alienate in the name of child safety at some degree. I'm sorry to say that, but the reason I say that so bluntly like that is because I could alienate in the name of child safety, and I choose not to. And there are safe parents out there who choose not to, and who choose to understand that all parents are not perfect, but that we need to cultivate our child's relationship with both of their parents. So I think that's kind of what I would say. Of course, I hope that everybody is able to get to their state capital on April 25th. And basically anyone who opposes Kayden's law, anyone who is in favor of shared parenting, anyone who believes that children should have two parents, we all need to get to our state capital on April 25th. We need to start organizing. We need to start having state chapters meeting regularly, and we need to just start educating our politicians. And we need to start exposing the politicians who are voting yes on Kayden's law.
Those are great ideas. I know that I'm a little bit sick of just posting videos online and talking online. I want to get out there and make real change. I think it's a great opportunity not only for parents to feel very empowered and to get out there and to make a difference at their state capital, but also to potentially meet a community, meet other parents who've been through the same thing, other children who've been through the same thing. Um, Aubrey and I will both be at our state capital in Salt Lake City on Parental Alienation Awareness Day. We're going to be giving our testimonies, hanging up educational and awareness flyers. We're going to be bringing a lot of posters and hopefully being able to have a vigil for everybody who's experiencing the psychological abuse, because as you can tell from this recording, the people in charge right now clearly don't care. So I think a lot of parents, if people knew how many parents were behind you, um, I I think it might make a difference. So it really is a matter of getting everyone in the same place at the same time and moving forward together.
Yeah. And keep in mind, you guys, that Maddie is going to be broadcasting us reading our statements. And so, everybody, no matter what state capital you're at, you're going to be able to, tune into that broadcast. I'm sure it will be short, but we're going to be hanging flyers before. So, bring as many flyers as you can bring. And then, Maddie has 3 approved sign slogans that you can also make a sign. So make sure you're using those sign slogans, you're printing out the flyers. Let's make this congruent, our message congruent. Imagine if I would have shown up at, the mother's protest when I went with a sign that said, parental alienation is child abuse. So, yeah, the other side might have, the other side show up to present their side, and that's okay. I wouldn't worry about it, but I wouldn't mingle with them. These people have drawn a line in the sand. We have not drawn a line in the sand. These people have drawn, the
Mhm.
mothers' rights movement has drawn a line in the sand, and they're calling all fathers abusers. I could literally not believe the post that Tina Swithin made about the fathers' rights movement in the last, like, 2 or 3 days or so. So you guys can go see that on Another Parent's Battle Facebook page. But yeah, I mean, they are now being very open with the fact that they have a mother's rights movement. They are against the father's rights movement. They want parental alienation replaced with the term CAMS, child and mother sabotage, as if there's no such thing as father sabotage. And, it's time for the men to please help us safe women, and, like, please help us out, because we need anyone who is against Kayden's law, anyone is in favor of shared parenting. Like, we all have to unite on those 2 points. Yes, we all might have different opinions on different things and whatnot, but if we can unite on that, then we might be able to make some change.
Another idea for the vigil is to go to your state capital, and I'm going to bring a photo of me from the age I was alienated at 9 years old, as well as a battery operated tea light candle. I think Aubrey plans on doing the same thing. So if you want to include a picture of you or with your child at the age they were alienated and a tea light candle, that would be something really special, just to take a moment of silence. And I mean, I will be expressing my praying or expressing my gratitude, trying to talk to other people who are there. Um, but let's not forget that this movement that I think is radical feminist movement, not only are they hurting fathers, but they're hurting mothers just like Aubrey, who are going through this and who have lost their children unjustifiably. So it really is a dangerous movement. They are ahead of us in a big way. They have these state chapters. They're run like a professional organization. And we know that there's this type of bias where if you were the first person to inform somebody about something, they are drastically more likely to believe you than the next person who comes in with different information. So they've gotten to all of the right people before we have, and it's time that we catch up.
Exactly. And for anyone looking for the event details for the vigil on the 25th, visit the Anti-Alienation Project. She has an event link, and if you click on that event link, it will give you the flyers, the sign slogans, the information, everything you should bring. Or, don't feel obligated, you guys. If you just show up yourself, then that's fabulous. But that's where you can find all the information, is on the Anti-Alienation Facebook page.
Yes, and we plan on seeing how the first event goes and potentially making it a once a month event every 25th of every month. Our goal would be to make some not literal noise, but figurative noise, to be able to get some news or media coverage on parental alienation, why we're fighting back and why this is so important, because the other side sure has been able to do that.
And imagine if, like, one day, or even this April 25th coming up, we have just frames and frames of children lining all the steps of the Capitol building with those tea light candles. And that's kind of, been me and Maddie's vision from the very beginning, to have these big vigils where we're highlighting the children. And, of course, Maddie, commented that, the mother's rights movement's not just hurting fathers, but it's hurting mothers. But obviously, more importantly than anything, it's hurting the children, and it's taking them away from one or both of their parents. And so obviously, I just always want to remember the children at the end of any type of video or discussion. But I also just want to encourage the parents that whether you are alienated or whether you have some type of contact with your child, to build a big, beautiful life that they can come home to. And whether they come home or whether they don't, you do deserve a big, beautiful life. But if we just sit and do nothing, then they're not going to have anything to come home to. And so, I just want to leave everybody with that inspiration that, it's never too late. You can always take it back to court. You can always try to modify. But I also understand that some cases truly just reach a dead end for many reasons.
Yeah, and one other thought that I had the other day, and maybe we'll end here because I think that was a great point, is that some parents I've talked to or seen, tend to come to the belief, and I understand why they come to the belief, but the belief that their child truly doesn't love them or care about them anymore, and that is the most heartbreaking thing in the way the alienator, the abusive parent has won at that point. And as a child who went through this, and knowing others who've been through this as a child, to lose one's parent, even when you believe they are bad, abusive, selfish, whatever, it will leave a gaping wound inside of you that is never going to be filled. It is a permanent scar, a void, and that is going to affect you for the rest of your life. So don't ever, convince yourself that your child doesn't care, doesn't love you, doesn't think about you, because I guarantee you they absolutely do. It is a wound that festers and festers and never stops festering. And so please, please hang on to that belief and that knowledge. I really believe that with my whole heart.
Yeah, me too. I do too, Maddie. Yeah.
Yeah. So please join us on April 25th. And thank you for tuning in, everybody. I think this is a conversation that is very important to share. So if you found this enlightening or important, please go ahead and share it with someone you think might get something important from it. Or maybe you can try to reach out to your own senator, see how it goes, see if they have a similar response, and let us know.
Yes. And again, you guys, I would just assume anyone voting for this bill that if they're voting yes, they believe parental alienation is not real and does not happen. And it's time we operate that way to make sure we put the right people in office.
Absolutely. And maybe by the time that we have the next the voting moment, that we'll have a list of people that we know do believe in it and are going to protect children and their loving
Yes,
parents. Yeah.
absolutely.
So, everybody, I hope you have a great night. Go check out the Facebook page, and hopefully, we can get together groups in various states and make this happen.
Okay. Thank you, Maddie.
Thanks, Aubrey. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.